I, 28-year-old female, am friends with Ruth, 30-year-old female. We have been friends for 8 years. We met in medical school and became closer during the infection-19 pandemic, after we stayed in the same city for post-medical school training, residency, until I left to finish residency in another state/city, closer to family a few years ago. She's having a destination wedding in the Dominican Republic, DR, at an all-inclusive resort. I am chronically single, and Ruth has been engaged for 2 years. I am attending as a guest, not bridal party, and received my RSVP last month. I had mentioned the wedding to my mother at the time, who expressed the desire to also come with me. In the moment, I told her that I didn't feel comfortable asking Ruth for a +1. The RSVP was for me only, since it's Ruth's wedding, but my mom said she only wanted to go to the resort and would do her own thing on the day of the wedding, such as going to the spa or enjoying entertainment, as we'd have time to do other activities on different days. She said she would pay for the trip, which was appreciated. But I would have no problem paying for just myself or both of us. Because of my busy schedule as a general surgery resident and limited vacation time, it seemed like a reasonable compromise. My mom also said that she might change her mind about going, and to let her know when I was planning to finalize tickets and lodging, which I was planning to do in the next few weeks, December 2023. Last week, Ruth reached out to see if I had booked my room and if I'd be interested in staying with one of her single female friends. I told her that I was planning to book everything in the next few weeks, as I was waiting to confirm if my mom still wanted to go to the resort, but that she would not be attending the wedding festivities. Ruth then said that I should have asked her if I could bring my mom to her wedding. I reiterated that my mom would not be attending any of the wedding festivities, just the resort. She said that I should have run it by her because she wouldn't have wanted to feel obligated to invite my mom to the wedding festivities on the spot during the wedding. To be honest, I can see where she's coming from, and I told her that nothing was set in stone. I then agreed with her that I should have told her about it from the beginning. She was very upset about this, and I apologized profusely as I simply didn't think about it from her perspective. Ultimately, I said that I was happy to go by myself, with the hotel included. A few days later, she told me that she didn't feel valued as a friend and uninvited me to her wedding, and effectively ended our friendship. I'm saddened that it came to this, and I do agree that I should have simply asked ahead of time. I think we're both at fault here, but that her response was a bit severe. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your friend is the big jerk here. She had no right to insist on being informed of your mom going to the resort at the same time as her wedding. Did your friend email the resort to demand that they have to turn away any guests that weren't invited to her wedding as well? Your mom wasn't going to the wedding festivities. She was simply going to enjoy the resort by herself, then spend some time with you. I hope you don't have to work with that demanding woman, and I hope she's a better doctor than she is a friend. Comment 2. She said that I should have run it by her because she wouldn't have wanted to feel obligated to invite my mom to the wedding festivities on the spot during the wedding. I don't understand why you should have run it by her. It's a destination wedding. You mom was interested in that destination, so you planned to book together, and your mom was more than content to hang by herself on the wedding day. What am I missing? Were there additional days of wedding-related activities you were expected to be present for? Not the idiot. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a chaotic couple of weeks, and I've got an update for you all that I think you'll find pretty interesting. So, after Ruth uninvited me from her wedding and ended our friendship, I was pretty devastated. Ruth and I had been through a lot together, especially during those grueling years in medical school. We'd pulled each other through some tough times, and I thought our bond was stronger than this. But I guess I was wrong. I spent a few days mulling over what had happened, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more going on with Ruth. It just didn't add up. Ruth had always been the level-headed one, the one who could see both sides of a situation. For her to cut me off over something like this felt out of character. Then, out of the blue, I got a text from one of Ruth's other friends. Let's call her Emily. Emily and I weren't close, but we'd hung out a few times when I was still in the same city for residency. She said she heard about what happened and wanted to give me some insight into Ruth's behavior. Turns out, Ruth's fiancé, who I'll call Mark, had been causing some drama of his own. Emily revealed that Mark had been getting cold feet about the wedding and had been confiding in Ruth's friends instead of talking to Ruth directly. This was news to me, and it made me see the situation in a whole new light. Apparently, Mark had been feeling overwhelmed by the wedding plans and the idea of such a big commitment. He'd been venting to Ruth's friends, including Emily, about his doubts. Ruth, on the other hand, was completely in the dark about Mark's feelings. Emily thought that Ruth's reaction to my situation might have been fueled by the stress of her own relationship issues. She suggested that Ruth might be taking out her frustrations on me because I was a safe target. I didn't know what to make of all this. On one hand, I felt bad for Ruth, dealing with a fiancé who wasn't being upfront with her. On the other hand, I was angry that she'd taken it out on me and our friendship. A few days after Emily's bombshell, I got another surprise. Ruth reached out to me. She sent me a long message, apologizing for overreacting and explaining that she'd been under a lot of stress with the wedding planning. She didn't mention anything about Mark's cold feet, though, so I guessed she still didn't know. Ruth asked if we could talk and possibly mend our friendship. I was torn. Part of me wanted to just forget the whole thing and move on, but another part of me missed my friend. I agreed to meet with her, and we had a long, emotional conversation. Ruth admitted that she'd been feeling insecure about her relationship with Mark, and that she'd unfairly taken it out on me. She asked for my forgiveness and for me to reconsider attending the wedding. Just when I thought things might be getting back to normal, the situation took another turn. While Ruth and I were talking, Mark called her. I could tell from her side of the conversation that something was wrong. After she hung up, she was in tears. Mark had confessed to Ruth that he'd been having doubts about the wedding and that he'd been talking to her friends about it. Ruth was heartbroken and felt betrayed not only by Mark, but by her friends who had kept it from her. Now, I was in the middle of a mess that I didn't even see coming. Ruth was asking me for advice on what to do about Mark, and I was still trying to process the fact that we'd just repaired our own friendship. I told Ruth that she needed to have a serious talk with Mark and decide if they could work through his doubts together. As for me, I was still unsure about attending the wedding. The whole situation had become so complicated, and I didn't want to be in the middle of their relationship drama. As of now, Ruth and Mark are trying to work things out, but the wedding is up in the air. Ruth wants me there, but I'm not sure if I can handle the tension. Plus, my mom is still in the picture, and I haven't even told her about any of this drama yet. Aunt brings teen to my no-kids wedding, so I expose her lies to everyone. She's shocked when the guests side with me, and then, I recently got married to my husband. Leading up to our wedding, we had no issues. The wedding was pretty laid back, not many guidelines, the only significant one being no children unless they were in the wedding. 1 flower girl, 2 junior bridesmaids, 1 ring bearer. I knew that my aunt didn't like this rule from the beginning. It's not that we don't like kids, we simply did not have the capacity for them. Fast forward to the wedding day. Things were going really well, and I was speaking with some other guests when my aunt comes up to me with her teenage daughter and announces that she brought her anyways, and that she didn't think it was a big deal. I was stunned and didn't really know what to do and didn't want to cause a scene. I hugged her, excused myself, and that was that. The next day, I was speaking with my sister about the incident, and she told me to read through my texts from that day. My MOH had my phone for most of the day, but my sister had warned me that this was going to happen, and that this had been the plan the entire time. She wanted her daughter there, and she was going to sneak her in behind my back. On top of that, I had also found out that my aunt had been rude to many of my guests, ignoring them when they said hi, or straight glaring at them. I decided I was not going to let this go and was going to text my aunt about her behavior. I texted my father and stepmother, letting them know I was going to be messaging my aunt about her behavior at my wedding and was just giving them a heads up because drama spreads through my family like wildfire. I honestly thought they would ignore the text and go on with their lives like they normally do, but instead, they became incredibly rude. Apparently, they had told her it was okay to bring her regardless of my wishes. I was told I was being overly emotional, I was overreacting, and that they were well within their right to do so. They made the decision, and that was that. I will note that they were not involved with any of the wedding. They had made it clear from the beginning that they did not want to be involved. I replied back that I was hurt by their behavior, that they did not have the right to do that, and that they were incredibly rude to my husband and me. I told them I would be sending a message to my aunt anyways, and that was that. They did not like this. I sent the text to my aunt telling her the rule was in place for a reason, that we did not have the capacity for kids, and that her behavior to my guests was unacceptable. I went so far to ask her if there was something going on, and that I hoped that she was all right. My younger sister sided with my parents, and we haven't spoken since. I know it has spread around my family that I was disrespectful for not inviting my cousin to begin with, and for sticking up for myself to my parents and aunt. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. OP, you need to think long and hard about this situation. Your parents have told you they have no respect for your opinions, as has your aunt. Do you have plans to have children? Because if you do, these people will take delight in undermining you as a parent. If you were ever seriously ill, would you want them to have any say about the treatment you received? I would put a great distance between my family and myself if I were in your situation. A geographic solution. Because parents who do not respect their adult children rarely ever change. Comment 2. Not the idiot. These people hijacked your wedding arrangements in favor of doing what they wanted. What a bunch of a-holes. At any rate, it sounds like you handled yourself beautifully, enjoyed the wedding and reception, and no longer need to feel obligated to acknowledge all the a-holes around you. And if your dad and stepmom don't like your take on things, tell them that next time they get married, they can pay for the privilege of a danged free-for-all. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a week since I updated you all on the wedding drama, and let me tell you, things have escalated. After I sent that text to my aunt, I thought that would be the end of it. But no, she replied with a message that made my jaw drop. She said that she had every right to bring her daughter because family should always be included. She even had the nerve to say that I was the one being rude for not considering her feelings. Can you believe that? Now, let's rewind a bit. My aunt has always been the type to push boundaries. Remember the time she accidentally spilled red wine on my white dress at a family dinner? Yeah, that's her. And my parents, well, they've always been the type to avoid conflict. They'd rather say yes to keep the peace than support their own daughter's wishes. It's been a pattern since I was a kid, like when they forced me to give up my room for a whole summer because my aunt and her family needed a place to stay. Back to the present. My parents called me after receiving my text. They were furious. They said I was making a mountain out of a molehill and that I should apologize to my aunt. I couldn't believe they were taking her side after everything. It felt like a betrayal. Then, the unexpected happened. My husband, who's usually the calm one, got really upset. He reminded me of the time my aunt made a scene at his birthday party because the cake wasn't to her liking. He was tired of her disrespect towards us and our decisions. So, he decided to confront my parents himself. He told them off, saying that it was our wedding and our rules. They should have respected that. My parents didn't take it well. They accused him of manipulating me and turning me against my family. It was a mess. Meanwhile, my younger sister, who had sided with my parents, started spreading rumors about me. She told relatives that I was being a bridezilla and that I had overreacted about the whole situation. She even twisted the story to make it seem like I had personally attacked my aunt. But here's the kicker. My sister-in-law, who was one of the junior bridesmaids, overheard my aunt and my younger sister planning to sneak my cousin into the wedding weeks before the big day. She didn't think much of it at the time, but after everything that happened, she told me about it. That's when I realized this was all premeditated. The confrontation with my parents and husband didn't go unnoticed. Guests at the wedding started talking. They remembered how my aunt had been glaring at them and ignoring their greetings. They were on my side. They couldn't believe my parents had allowed her to disrespect me like that. And then, another bombshell. My maid of honor, who had been holding onto my phone during the wedding, came forward with screenshots of texts from my aunt. She had been bad-mouthing me to other family members on the day of my wedding. She called me controlling and said that I was ruining her daughter's chance to be part of a family event. I was fuming. I had tried to be understanding, even asking my aunt if she was okay, thinking maybe she was going through something. But no, she was just being spiteful. Now, I haven't spoken to my parents or my aunt since the confrontation. My younger sister has been avoiding me too. It's like I'm the villain in their story, even though all I did was set a boundary for my own wedding. The whole situation has caused a rift in the family. Some are on my side, saying that my aunt was out of line and that my parents should have backed me up. Others think I should have just let it go and that I'm overreacting. But you know what? I don't regret standing up for myself. It's about time someone put a stop to my aunt's behavior. And if my parents can't see that, then maybe they need to reevaluate their priorities. My husband blew up when I deleted his game to free space for our photos. He didn't see the backup drive until... I, 32-year-old female, have been married to my husband Mike, 34-year-old male, for 5 years. Mike's first wife passed away in December 2012, when their son TJ was only 5 years old. Meanwhile, I've been divorced since 2013, but my daughter Dana is still close with her biological dad Dick until now. I met Mike in 2016. After we married, we had a near-perfect family, and TJ was even comfortable enough to call me Mom. However, in April of this year, TJ was hit by a drunk driver and was ended the life of instantly. Our family was devastated. Understandably, Mike was inconsolable. I was the one who made the arrangements for TJ's service and made sure the drunk driver was jailed. In his grief, Mike didn't come out of the house for months. He is now seeing a therapist to help him process everything. Then, last month, Dana told me that Weenie invited her to spend the holidays with him. I said no. Christmas has always been tough for Mike because of his wife's passing. Dana knows this, and now he also lost TJ. I told Dana that we're the only family Mike has left, so we'll be celebrating Christmas at our home. She was disappointed, but seemed to understand. However, yesterday, she pressed again, this time over dinner with Mike. Dana said that Weenie rented a vacation house where they could go skiing and do other fun activities. However, I still said no, and I explained to her again why. After an hour of arguing, Dana started raising her voice. Mike intervened and said maybe I should just let Dana go. I still said no. I know Mike was just being modest and that he'd be heartbroken if Dana leaves. I know I will be. I then said something like, "Come on, Dana, this is the first time we're celebrating Christmas with just the three of us. How about we make those cookies TJ really liked?" Then, to my shock, Dana replied with, "He's not even my real brother, and Mike's not even my real family. I want to spend time with my real dad," then stomped her way to her room. This was the first time Dana acted like this. Mike had been nothing but kind, caring, and supportive to her. She has also told me that she feels good and safe with Mike. We even baked a cake during TJ's birthday, and Dana made a beautiful slideshow to honor him. Mike then told her how much she means to him as his daughter. I looked at Mike, who was on the verge of tears, but he just told me to let it go, since it's Christmas time, and maybe Dana was just being a teenager, she's 15, and to just let her spend time with Weenie. I then went to Dana's room and told her that she can spend Christmas with Weenie if she apologizes to Mike. She refused, saying she didn't say anything that wasn't true. That's when I started to get mad. I told her that she's staying home for Christmas and that I'm taking all her devices during the break. I also said she won't be joining her friend's sleepover after New Year. Weenie then called and said I'm overreacting and that I'm an AH for ruining Dana's break. However, I don't see how disciplining my child makes me an AH. So am I the idiot for what I did? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You are dealing with a lot, but you are the jerk. Please remember, this also all happened to Dana. People grieve in different ways, and she asked for something she probably needed, and then reacted like a teenager who can't express herself correctly when you shut her down. Let her go have a break from the grief. It can be overwhelming to feel the weight of adults' emotions on top of your own when you're a teen. Try to go a little easier on everyone, yourself included. Comment 2. You are the jerk. Your daughter is not your husband's emotional support animal. She wants to enjoy her holiday doing fun things. She does not want her Christmas to be focused on your husband and his grief. What happened to your family is tragic, and I can't imagine how much you are all suffering. I am so sorry you are going through this. However, all you are doing right now is driving your daughter away. Keep pushing, and you will permanently destroy relationships. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 3 days since my last post, and boy, do I have an update for you. After the blowout with Dana, things took a turn I didn't expect. The morning after the argument, Dana was still fuming. She wouldn't even look at me or Mike. I could tell Mike was hurt, but he was trying to keep the peace. He's always been the type to avoid conflict, even back when we were dating. I remember how he told me about his late wife's illness, how he'd sit by her bedside, holding her hand, trying to be strong for both of them. That's just who he is, a rock in the storm. But this storm was different. It was in his own home, and it was threatening to tear us apart. I was torn between supporting my husband and understanding my daughter's feelings. I knew Dana was close to her dad, Weenie. They'd go on camping trips together, just the two of them, and she'd come back with stories that would light up her whole face. I couldn't take that away from her, not really. So, I decided to talk to Mike alone. I found him in TJ's room, holding one of his son's old baseball gloves. It was a quiet moment, and I could see the pain in his eyes. We talked, really talked, about everything. I told him how I felt about Dana wanting to be with her dad, and how I was scared of losing the family we had built. Mike listened, and then he did something that surprised me. He suggested a compromise. He said, "What if we let Dana go for a few days, but have her back for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day? That way, she gets to spend time with Weenie, but we're still together for the holiday." I was stunned. It was such a simple solution, but it felt like a weight had been lifted. I went to Dana's room to tell her about the compromise. She was sitting on her bed, headphones on, clearly still upset. When I told her about the plan, she looked at me with wide eyes. "Really?" she asked, and I could hear the hope in her voice. I nodded, and just like that, the ice between us started to melt. But then, Weenie called again. He wasn't happy with the compromise. He wanted Dana for the entire holiday break. No exceptions. I could feel my temper rising again, but I remembered Mike's calm demeanor and took a deep breath. I explained the situation, how important it was for us to be together, especially this year. After a long silence, Weenie finally agreed. I could tell he wasn't thrilled, but he understood. The next day, Dana left for Weenie's vacation house. She hugged Mike before she left, and I saw him whisper something in her ear. She nodded, hugged him tighter, and then she was off. Mike turned to me after she left, and I could see the relief in his eyes. "Thank you," he said, and I knew we'd made the right decision. But the surprises weren't over. On Christmas Eve, Dana came back as planned, but she wasn't alone. Weenie had driven her back, and he had a small gift in his hand. It was for Mike. I watched as they shook hands, an unspoken truce between them. Weenie stayed for a cup of coffee, and we all talked like a family. It was awkward at first, but by the time Weenie left, it felt like we'd all taken a step forward. Christmas Day was quiet, but it was filled with a new kind of warmth. We made those cookies TJ liked, and Dana even suggested we light a candle for him. Mike's eyes were wet with tears, but he was smiling. It was a bittersweet moment, one that I'll never forget. And now, here we are, the day after Christmas. The house is quiet again, but there's a sense of peace that wasn't there before. Dana is back to her usual self, and Mike, well, he's still the rock, but I can tell he's healing, little by little. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.